And let's get this sharing begin. All right, Zoom people, can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up, a chat, hi, or something. Yes? All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes.
All right, good. Awesome. Well, listen, first off, what's up, everybody?
What's up?
We doing all right?
Yeah.
Isn't this kind of cool? We're back to doing an in-person training. A little bit out of the blue here, but nonetheless, thank you all for joining us for today's class. It is going to be all about business planning. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes here in a minute on why we're doing this class. But I just wanted to first off thank everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule to do this session with us. The content of today, it can go as short as 30 minutes, could go as long as an hour, but I promise you will not go longer than 60 minutes. And the content itself is really going to be generated based off of the conversations that we have. So I'm going to be doing my best to balance between some of you here watching on Zoom, and feel free to pipe up and talk as we ask some questions, as well as obviously for those of you that are here with us live. So are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Maybe I need to actually take this little chat box out of the way though. That might make it hard for you guys to see what's going on. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, we just might have a technical difficulty here and there, but we're going to work through it together. All right. Can we see that now? Awesome. All right. So today's class is going to be part one of a two-part training. It is all a part of business planning. As we've seen, since the middle of March and COVID-19 really hitting the community of Las Vegas, many real estate agents, their businesses were turned a little bit upside down. And coming into this year, many of you are probably prepping to have the best and biggest year of your business ever. Was that the case for anybody? Yeah? Okay, a little bit. Yeah, and so you had every reason to believe so. The market throughout the end of 2019 was absolutely on fire. And the way that this year started, there was every reason to believe that this was going to be absolutely the biggest year yet for real estate. Then COVID-19 hit and it said, hey, I really like that business plan, but put it away, right? And so with that, a lot of people had to shove it into their drawer. For many agents, what I've seen as I get to coach and consult with many agents, I've found that there's been a little bit of a disconnect or struggle in reassessing what is it that my business needs to be focusing on, even with some of the changes already happening. So this class and this two-part series is all about getting you back up to speed, get you on the right track, and make sure that you still have the biggest and best year you possibly can have. Because that's what everybody wants, right? Is that what you want, Edgar?
Of course.
Okay, great. Now this is going to be a highly interactive class. If you guys have been through one of my sessions before, I do not like sitting up here and talking for 30 to 45 minutes. One, I'll build a lot of spit in my mouth and then I'll start to splash it everywhere. So to prevent that from happening, I need you guys to talk to me so I could take a break and swallow. The other reason is because it's going to just be a little bit more fun that way and time will pass by for everyone at a much faster rate. So can I get a commitment first off from all of you in person that you will interact to the best of your abilities in this class?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. And for those of you in the Zoom chat, can I at least get a commitment that all of you will be interacting with me as much as possible, whether it be on voice or in the chat box? We're gonna have to work on this group. This group is being real quiet. I know somebody chatted, but okay. So I'm gonna take that as a yes. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about why we're meeting today. All right. And there's really three big reasons why. The first of which is what we know with some of the most successful businesses out there. All right. What everybody sees, what you see from some of the top real estate agents in the business, you see things that are what I call above the surface, right? So if I was to draw a glacier, I want everybody to just imagine with me, there's a glacier. You guys with me? Now, that glacier is in the middle of water, right? So the water is covering a portion of that glacier below the surface, and then everybody gets to see what's above the surface, okay? So what I want you guys to think about is that glacier is going to be representation of an agent's overwhelming success. There are things that we see above the surface, and there are things below the surface that we don't see that still make up the glacier. Is everybody with me? Okay. Here is what we all see with the most successful people. We see them highly productive, and we see them highly profitable. Is that the case? Right. Can everybody imagine an agent or two that is highly productive and highly profitable? Yeah. Okay. But here's the deal. That is built off of something bigger than the productivity and the profitability. It's much more than just simply saying, put your head down and get to work, and all of that will come into play. It's the things below the surface that we don't typically have when we're not at the top of the top. So what are those things below the surface? So again, I want you to imagine at the top of that iceberg above the surface, we have productivity and profitability. What's below that surface are two other P's: purpose and priority. And that's what today's session is going to be about: giving you, your business, and your life, ultimately your business, purpose and priority. Once you have those two things, then it's much easier for us to define how are we going to be productive, and thus how are we going to be profitable. Okay? So that's one of the reasons why we're doing this class, is to help all of you understand your purpose and priority. Now, what else? We know that 90%, almost 90% of the agents are out of the business in their first year. Of those remaining 10%, about 80% of those agents are gone in their second year. Does that scare anybody? If I was a brand new agent, I'd be a little bit nervous. I would need some Old Spice right about now, all right? How in the world am I gonna be one of that 10% and one of that 20 of that 10%? Ugh. Well, one of the big reasons why is many of the agents, you guys remember when you went through school, real estate school? Didn't you learn everything you needed to be a successful real estate agent? Everything. Oh, I know exactly how to sell homes. No, you don't. All you know is about dual agency, right? And all these other legal terms. And so the idea here is, man, we do not set agents up for success as an industry. We do not set agents up for success getting to this business from day one. And no, it's not just about, do you understand your contracts? Do you understand how to find your clients? It comes back to, are you treating every single day with a plan and with purpose? Once we have those down, then we can remove things that typically leads to failure in agents. How many of you heard of the term shiny object syndrome? Oh, that's a really cool way of generating leads. Oh, I gotta create this business card. That website sounds really cool, right? And there are 101,000 different shiny objects in this business that you introduce to right from minute one. Just talk to 10 agents in your office. Hey, how are you getting deals? How many different responses are you gonna get? How do you know which direction to go? Most agents don't have a plan or a purpose, right? And then of course, with COVID-19 coming into play, we did a similar session in November of last year. Were any of you there for the November business planning clinic? Instead of it being 2 one-hour sessions, it was 1 6-hour day. But man, we went deep, and we went deep fast on that day. But see, what happened was in the middle of March, this little virus came around and said, hey, I like that you thought that this was going to be a great year, but I'd like to give you an additional challenge to overcome in order to do that. And what's quickly happening and is bound to happen, in fact, we're already seeing it now. The agents that do the great activities, I didn't say the great agents, but the agents that do great activities will be the ones that remain. The agents that choose not to apply a plan or a purpose and do the great activities will be gone in this business. And I can guarantee you within the next 6 months, we'll see many of those agents already out. This business is only going to get a little bit more difficult for us to generate deals. So why are we doing this? To help you pivot with what COVID-19 already forced many agents to pivot to. Okay? Let's just make sure you're really clear on that. So as a result of us knowing why we're meeting today, then let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to cover in today's session. Again, this is going to be the first of 2 parts. So it's not going to cover everything in one. What we're going to do is we're going to help you first by defining your business's purpose. Okay? Most people, when they get their license, there's a different response as to why you got it. Oh man, I watched Selling Sunset on Netflix and I figured that's a really cool idea for doing something for a living. That show is horrendous. Maybe you're watching HGTV and you thought flipping homes is what you wanted to do. Maybe you see other successful real estate agents that are driving nice cars, live in nice houses, buying nice things, and that's what you thought you were going to be able to do just by simply getting that license. Whatever the reason may be, that doesn't typically define your business's purpose. So we're going to help you define that today. Then what we're going to do is we're going to map out some very specific things. Your personal goals, your true financial goal, and I say the word true very specifically here. I'll define why in a minute. Once you understand your personal and financial goals, now we have what is needed to inform you of your business goal. Because again, it's going to come into light once you understand your business's purpose. Once you have your business goal, then we can talk about building a business plan. Now, there are a ton of different books on how to build a business plan. And in many cases, this process can take you weeks on end in order to complete. I'm going to show you how to build a business plan within about 1 to 3 hours and do it all on one page. Okay? And for those of you that are Keller Williams agents, some of this might be a little bit of a review. Others of you, this might be an introduction to some of the tools that you don't know. And if you're not with Keller Williams, no worries. I'm going to give you access to every tool that we talk about today. Cool? All right. Any questions? Any questions from my group here? Let's see what we got in the chat box. We got some LOLs. I don't know what you're LOLing about, but yep, we're talking some jokes. Awesome analogy. All right. Oh, you guys can see those chats too. So, okay, let me put those away then. All right. So let's go ahead and start by defining your business's goal, or your business's purpose, I should say. All right. When we talk about defining your business's purpose, here's what typically happens. I'll meet with an agent and I'll say, hey, how much money do you want to make? Because would you all agree that one of your purposes for your business should in some way or another relate to the amount of money that you're generating? Yeah? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes? Zoomers? I'll take that as a yes. You guys are being really quiet. I'm going to start yelling at y'all in a minute here. Okay, hold on one second. I need to do something because you guys are making a little bit of noise. All right. There we go. So here's the deal. Your business purpose in some way or another has to do with the amount of money that you're going to generate from it. Okay. So when I ask the question, so how much money do you want to generate for your business? What are some of the responses that you think I typically get?
100,000.
100,000. What else?
2 million.
2 million.
Usually 100,000.
100,000, 150, 400,000, 500,000, right? 1 million. Look, what does it go for your business? 100, 250, 500. What do you think is the immediate question I ask after that? No.
Why?
Right. Why? Why is 100,000 important to you? Why is 250? Why is $500,000 important to you? Why do you think I asked that, guys?
To see if it's a realistic goal.
If it's a realistic goal, okay. Any other ideas?
Are you going to achieve that goal?
Are you going to achieve that goal? Okay. What else?
Not are you, how are you?
Will that amount finance your business? What do you call it? Fund the business and what you want as far as your personal goals.
So will that money actually fund what you're looking for?
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, I think you all are right on the right track here. Here's the reason why. It's because of the bad people that I asked that question. What do I mean by the bad people? By the way, I'm going to ask a lot of questions that I'm not asking for an answer to. So you might want to respond, but then I'll answer it anyway. Okay. Just tell me if you want to answer it. So what do I mean by the bad people? There's a lot of agents that come into this business and they create an arbitrary goal. 100,000 sounds great. 250 sounds better. And there's absolutely no emotional attachment to the goal that they've set for themselves. Now, what happens when you don't have an emotional attachment to a goal?
You don't push hard enough to achieve the goal.
Say that loud for the Zoomers to hear that.
You won't push hard enough to achieve the goal.
You won't push hard enough to actually achieve that goal. How many of you have set a goal for yourself where you needed to hit it by any means necessary? Have any of you ever set that type of goal before? Yeah? How hard did you work for that goal? You see, what happens when you set those types of goals, you get out of bed when you're supposed to. You actually brush your teeth, comb your hair, and change your clothes, don't you? You do what is needed for your mindset to get into the right mind, because that is one of either the biggest obstacles or best tools for you to achieve those goals. But you get yourself in the right mindset to actually achieve that goal. You do the right activities. And by the way, you don't give up if you're just getting the wrong result. You figure out new ways of doing that similar activity. That's what you do when you're actually emotionally invested in a goal. What people typically do when they set arbitrary goals is, it sounds cool. There may be professional planners, but as far as actually executing on that strategy on a daily basis with the highest level of commitment possible, do you think they do it? Not typically. New Year's is one of my best examples for this because some of you are smiling. What do most people do with New Year's? They create New Year's resolutions, right? And oh man, what's one of the biggest New Year's resolutions we see? I'm losing 10 pounds finally. I'm going to the gym 5 days a week. And you know what? Do not go to the gym that first week. Do not go to that gym that second week. What's that?
I go in February when everybody's trial period ends.
And you go in February. You know why?
Because everybody's done.
Because the emotional attachment or lack thereof to that arbitrary goal that they set because of an arbitrary idea called a New Year's resolution is now dissipated. Don't set resolutions for your business. You guys with me?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about how you do this, right? We need to talk about when you're setting a goal, it's all about emotions. We have a saying in this business. Logic makes you think. What makes you act? Emotions make you act. Okay? So today, one of the things we're going to talk about are the goals that you set for yourself in your business. Upon you mapping out these goals for yourself, whether they're personal, financial, or business goals, there needs to be an emotion that comes from it. And if you haven't felt an emotion, that means you haven't dug deep enough in any of these goals. There's two emotions that we look for. Because we know that one of these two emotions typically gets somebody peeled out of their bed, brushing their teeth, doing their hair, getting in the right mindset, and doing the right activities over and over again, withstanding failure. Does anybody know what those two emotions are?
Fear and success.
You got one of them. Fear is absolutely one of them,
Failure.
right? Fear is one of them. When we are nervous about something because we didn't do something, oh man, that fear will get us going, right? The other one is faith. When you have such a strong and uplifting belief in what will happen to you, your life, and your business as a result of you achieving it, hanging on to that faith is also the other emotion that we look for. The question then becomes, what motivates you? What emotion do you really get out of bed for? Will you really do something for? And I'll be really transparent with you guys. I know that a belief in a higher thing because I did something doesn't peel me out of bed. You know what peels me out of bed, Rizal? Exactly. The fear that I can't feed my 6-month-old. The fear that I will die and disappear like a what? Like a fart in the wind. That I wouldn't leave some form of dent in the universe. That scares me. That I wouldn't make my parents proud. That I wouldn't be able to take care of my family that lives in New York that doesn't get to live the lifestyle I get to live here in Vegas. Right? You have to flesh out what emotions really motivate you to that extent. Yeah, Brendan.
I was going to say now, obviously it's whatever works better for that person, but is there a purpose to, because I'm just like you, where it's the fear of failure and the fear of letting myself down and my family down. Can that have a negative impact on your business? So would you want to more transition to a faith-based belief system for your thing? Or, I mean, I guess it's based on your own personal how it works, but can there be consequences to basing your beliefs off fear?
Can there be negative consequences to relying on fear? For the sake of today's conversation, here's what I'm talking about, because I don't know if that's the right question to be asking right now. The question is that the emotion that it's going to take for you to actually execute on the plan that we talk about today? No, does anybody here like to live in fear? Man, I was watching The Others the other day for the first time. I don't think anybody likes living with that kind of feeling. Like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And you're just shaking a little bit. Nobody likes that. But does that, in some cases, create the right type of motivation in order for you to take action? Absolutely. You see, the reason why some people don't like fear is because it takes them out of their what zone? Comfort zone. Man, you guys knew that really quickly, right? You know what doesn't happen in your comfort zone 9 times out of 10? Starts with a G, ends with growth. You got it, Keela. Growth. Comfort doesn't happen, or growth doesn't. That was not one of those questions. Growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you're in some level of discomfort, when you're pushed sometimes, or you take yourself out of that comfort zone. So what we are looking for is what is going to get you out of that comfort zone. Is it fear or is it faith? Either way, as you talk about these goals today, we need to make sure that one of these emotions are felt. Okay? Here's the purpose of business. We already started talking about it. The purpose of business is to what, Edgar?
Fund a perfect life.
Fund a perfect life. So we already determined this together. Typically, your business is going to have some form of monetary purpose attached to it. But there is an actual reasoning behind what it's funding. It's not just to fund whatever. It's not to fund that purse or that car or that house or that education. Unless that house, that purse, that car, that education defined your what?
Perfect life.
Your perfect life. Okay? So the purpose of your business is to fund a perfect life. Let's talk about how you determine this. Because most people are like, well, I don't have a big why. I don't know how to figure out what in the world my business's purpose is going to be. What am I funding? Here are some questions that you could ask yourself. And these answers will surprisingly actually bring out to you what is the perfect life for you. Has anybody seen these questions before? Yeah. Right? How do you define building a career worth having? I have 6 people right here in front of me. I have 7 more people in this Zoom, and I have a bunch more that's over here listening and not looking. That tells me that we can have a lot of different responses to some of these questions. But for you, again, this is a rhetorical question. What to you means building a career worth having? Is it something specifically that you're doing, you're striving towards? You've always wanted to blank. What does building a business worth owning mean to you? 1, is it profitable? Right? I think we can all agree that's a business worth owning and when it's profitable. But what else about the business? Does it have other people in it whose lives you can impact? Does it have specific types of people? Is it addressing a community? How do you define a life worth living? Does that include you going to certain places, having a special someone, having kids, living on your own, building technology or a new idea, whatever that life worth living is? What does it mean to build experiences worth giving? Is it places you've always wanted to go to? Is it experiences for other people? A certain type of education you've always wanted your kids to have? What does it mean to build a legacy worth leaving? Do any answers come to mind for any of you when you see these questions? Would any of you be willing to share an idea that comes to mind from any of these questions? Yeah, Kat.
So for me, for the legacy part is the whole point of real estate is to acquire houses that I can leave to my children. So I want them to have a trust fund where they can choose whatever career they want and not just choose a career to get the bills paid. Because they would have residual income to help facilitate that.
Bingo. So creating residual income for your family to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Anyone else? What other responses come to mind?
Well, for me, it's like a life worth living, right? It's giving back, always giving back, because you won't ever make it on your own. And so a lot of people need help with that leg up or a resource or something. But that, like, if I wasn't helping somebody else and I was being too selfish to be living life, me, it's important to just kind of do charitable work, whether it's your time or your money. That's
Rizal discussed the importance of giving back. Some people, and this is A-okay, don't care about a lick of money going to somebody else. It's about them first. Don't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I need to take care of myself if I'm going to really offer something to someone else, right? But for you, you've defined it as what level you're giving back. That's a life worth living. One more.
I would go with the experience worth giving. The whole reason I got into real estate is my experience with the agent I had. And I don't want to give that kind of experience to somebody else and give them those kind of headaches, because this process is a long and it can be strenuous process. I'm wanting to help people that think, possibly I can't afford a house. What is it like? Can it even be possible? Because once you owning a home is that big step where you're like, I've made it, or there's something that I have. It's not like owning a car or anything expensive. It's a home because it builds something off of that.
Bingo. You're thinking bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
First, let's ask Roselle about her handbags, because we've compared handbag shopping, and that girl has the same problem I have. So tell her to be honest with herself.
After the bangs, Edie.
Start with the handbags. Okay, that's your life worth living.
But it's not. No, you know what? For me, it's a lot. It's like my brothers and family members of mine need some assistance financially, so I'm able to help them and help them have a better life, and that's part of what keeps me going. And then for myself, I get to work with my husband, which I love. I get to be my own boss, have my own business, really set my own goals, and travel, afford the things that I like in life. I like a nice place to live. We travel a lot, things like that. So it affords me the luxury of having the lifestyle I want while I'm working, to work with my husband and to work from home for the most part. And while I'm not working, to vacation and to help others, have a better life as well.
Bingo, right? You've clearly defined different legs of a life worth living for you, right? And for everybody, there's going to be a different response here. That's okay. The key here is, what does this mean to you, right? And as you're writing out these responses, are you feeling that fear or faith by you achieving or not achieving it? You guys with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, and you guys will notice this is a little bit of a different way of business planning. Well, hold on, Dan, where are we going to talk about open houses? And wait, if this isn't right, and if your heart's not in the right place, I don't care how great we flesh out open houses. Guess what? There's only so many ways we can cold call. So many ways we could do an open house. And there's a reason why if I give one agent the same business plan on how to do open houses as the other, one person will significantly fail while the other one significantly succeeds. This wasn't addressed and this wasn't addressed. That's why we're addressing this first. Also, have any of you ever been in a race before or done a little marathon or something? Did you ever do that without knowing where the finish line was at all? Yeah, something would be wrong with you if you did. We need to know the end goal in mind. That way we know exactly the road and route to take. This is giving you that road and route to take. Okay? So here is going to be your formula for doing this. I want you all to start thinking big. This is going to be the first of your homework. So you might want to write this down. And by the way, you don't do this by yourself. You say, honey, kiddos, doggies, and cats, come together in the living room. We have something to do together. We're going to talk about a life worth living, a career worth having, a business worth owning, experiences worth giving, and legacies worth leaving. Someday, forget about the timeline attached to it. Someday, how would we like to respond to all of those questions? Robbie, 5-year-old Robbie, what is a life worth living for you? That might be a silly response you get back, but you guys get my point, right? These are the people that are most important to you. Let's figure out what the someday life looks like. Once you've figured out that someday life, then the next strategy to do is to say, okay, where do we need to be 5 years from now in order to be on pace with all of these someday goals we've established for ourselves? The last step in your business, in your defining your perfect life process, is now saying, okay, 1 year from now, where do I need to be in order to be on pace with my 5-year goal? You're starting with the end in mind, guys. We're not just thinking, I want to make 100,000 because I want to buy a Mercedes. I want to make 250,000 so I can finally buy that house in Summerlin. We're saying someday this is where I want to be, so these are the steps that I need to take to get there. Can you see how you'll have a greater purpose to your business this year by thinking 5 years and beyond? Can you see that? Right? This is how you build a life worth living. Now, here's the next step in the process, okay? Once you've answered those questions, someday, 5 years, and now 1 year from now, what do I need to do? Here's what's likely going to happen. You're going to have a lot of different things that you want to tick off of your list over the next year. It might include things like you want to go to certain places, you want to buy certain things, you want to pay off certain debts. Many of the items on your list, not all of them, but many of the items on your list over the next year will likely require some form of money for you to actually generate in order for you to do that. So for Roselle to get her handbags, will she have to make a certain amount of money? Roselle says yes. Okay? By the time you get done with those 1 year goals, you will likely have a list of different pieces of money you need to make. That receipt will then inform you of your financial goals. So there's an example right there on the sheet. You want to pay off your car, you want to buy a house, you want to go on a trip to France for 2. Maybe that's a portion of your 1 year goals. You now know that you need to make, from a financial standpoint, $125,000 to live a life worth living for this next year. That leads to a greater 5 year and someday goal. Now, here's the next thing. What is the purpose of your business? The purpose of the business is to what? Fund a perfect life, right? So what do we need in order to determine a business's purpose? Fund. Financial goals, right? We need to know how much money it needs to make in order to fund that personal, a perfect life. At this point, once you have your financial goals, now we could understand what your business goal needs to be. Now this is not a goal that you're pulling out of your wah-wah, okay? It's actually coming from somewhere and a much bigger idea. Once you understand goals like these, will you now peel yourself out of bed and brush your teeth and get ready and do the activities, even the ones that you might hate and despise? Because you know by doing it on a consistent and daily basis, Edgar, you will actually finally buy that house that gets you out of the 2-story small place that you and your kids can't live in. You guys with me? Mm-hmm. Right? So let's talk about how you, in fact, determine your business goals. Now, this is going to be another homework assignment for you here. So I'm going to ask for you to follow along with me as we dissect the economic model of Millionaire Real Estate Agent to help you determine your business goals. There's math involved. And if you're like me, you probably don't like to do a lot of math. Bear with me, Roselle. So this comes from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. It helps you determine your business goal. What you need in order to actually complete the economic model is an amount of money that you want to net. Okay? So and this is going to be the formula that we follow here. So you guys, if you guys want to take a screenshot, or I could send this to you, but this will be the entire formula of what we're going to follow here. The first thing that you need to start with is what is going to be the net income goal that you've set for yourself. Okay? For the sake of this, I'm going to put $1 million as the net income goal. Somebody wants to net $1 million. Okay? Now, we are talking in the form of a model. This isn't black and white, what's going to happen to you in your business. Okay? But over the past 15 years, assessing the biggest and best real estate businesses, these ratios that I'm about to cover with you are in fact the ratios that we've seen of the best businesses. Your net income is typically going to be, as a Millionaire Real Estate Agent business, 40% of your total gross commission income. Many of you might feel like that's low. And to be quite honest with you, if you're a solo agent, your net income is probably going to be higher than 40%. You're not going to have as high of a cost of sale and expenses. But for the sake of this model, you're going to use 40% as your net income of your gross commission income. So in this model, we then do a backwards calculation to find out that we need to generate $2.5 million in order to net $1 million. You take your net income amount, divide it by 0.4, and that'll tell you your gross commission income. Okay? Now, the model states that 30% of your gross commission income is going to go towards your operating expenses. 30% of your gross commission income is going to go towards your cost of sale, which are things like your brokerage fees, your splits with your team members, things like that. So if we account for both of those, each of those in this model is $750,000 a piece, which means 2.5 million minus 750 gives you a net income of what, Edgar? You got it, $1 million. Right? I told you guys don't like math, right? Now, the next thing that we need to figure out, now that we know we need to gross $2.5 million, we know what our GCI needs to be. That's the big keys. We need to figure out our GCI. Now what we could do is, let's go ahead and find out what is our average commission income. What is your average commission income? 7,500? What's yours? 10,000. What's yours? 8,000. What's yours? $300. Get out of rentals. Just kidding. What's yours? $5,000. Whatever it may be, right? You take your gross commission income, or you take your average commission amount, and if we understand that, so for this sake, we're going to use 7,150. We now divide our gross commission income by our average commission amount. We know we need to sell 350 units in order to net $1 million. Now, this is for netting $1 million. So don't get scared right now. Unless you want to net $1 million, then let's rock and roll. I'm right there with you. Okay, the economic model. Let's talk about the next phase of it. It states that a great real estate business will typically have a balance of 50% closings on the listing side, 50% closings on the buyer side. You would typically not want more than a 60-40 imbalance on either side. If you do, we probably need to have a coaching session on what's going on. Okay? And I'm happy to have those. But let's, for the sake of this conversation and its model, state that we are going to do 50% of our closings on each side. So here's what we do. That would mean that we need to close 175 listings over the next year. Okay? Now, we work backwards. All right? In order for you to get a closing, you have to have a contract taking. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent newest model states that you should typically expect a 75% conversion rate, meaning 75% of your listings taken will close. You might have your own conversion rate. If you have one and you know it, use it in this model. So if we work backwards, in order for us to close 175 listings, we need to take 233 listings. Now we work ourselves backwards again. In order for me to go and get a listing contract signed, I probably need to go on a what? Appointment, right? The Millionaire Real Estate Agent model states that you should typically expect to convert 75% of your listing appointments to a listing contract. Again, if you know yours, use that. Or if you want to base it on your skill level, use what you believe that will be. According to the Millionaire Real Estate Agent model, we need to go on 311 listing appointments in order to take 233 listings. What's that? You see it, and you have it all written out. We do the same on the buyer side, and we use the same formulas, by the way, the same conversion rates. Now, here's what we've found out by using the economic model so far. We know how many appointments we need to go on per side for the next year. Most importantly, we know the total number of appointments to go on. So then we break it down to something a little bit more bite-sized. Divide that number by 12. That tells you how many appointments you need to go on per month. So according to net $1 million, I need to go on 26 appointments on the listing side, 26 appointments on the buying side. Okay? How many weeks are in a month on average? 4. Take that number divided by 4. How many appointments do I need to go on per week over the next year? 6.5, right? Or 7. 6.5 appointments a week is all I got to focus on for the next year. How would you guys treat that goal? Maybe you say, I just need to worry about an appointment a day, right? But the economic model, what it's meant to do is to get you to stop thinking so much about how much money you have to make to fund that perfect life that you've been building. Get away from that, because how much control do you have over the amount of money that you really make? You have control, don't get me wrong, by how much you work, what you focus on, if you're a listings based, things like that. But the reality is that also has a lot of other factors that depend on how much money you make. I have a lot more control over the number of appointments that I book and the number of appointments that I hold. I'm going to focus on that, what I have control over, and not what's in the hands of a lot of other people. Okay? This model you use right here to get your goal to be bite-sized. So let's talk about what we've done so far. We've acknowledged the fact that maybe, just maybe, many agents are creating an arbitrary goal. A goal that doesn't get them out of bed, a goal that doesn't get them into action and really start generating a business that's going to fund a perfect life. Why? Because there's no emotional attachment to it. We discussed the process for creating that emotional attachment by answering some very specific questions, starting someday, 5 years, 1 year. We use those personal goals to determine financial goals for you. We use those financial goals to inform you of your business goal. We've broken your business goal all the way down to a certain number of appointments that you need to go on per week. How are we feeling so far?
Great, man.
Great? Stress. Don't worry. Here's the deal with this class. It is not meant for you to solve everything today. There's a reason why we're doing this in a two-part series, because if you don't do this part that we've talked about so far, there's no point in attending the second part. You have to have goals, but there are goals that really have an emotional attachment to them. You and I talked about this recently, right? Now, let's talk about what you do with that goal. Many of you will have likely received a handout. Did everybody receive a handout? Yours is right there. What you and I already worked on one. You got one? Okay. Now we're going to talk about how you could turn all of this into a one-page business plan. All right. What we're going to do is I'm going to introduce you to a tool known as the GPS. Okay. The GPS helps you take what could be a super chaotic process that you've already been through and bring some order to it. Okay. So I know what I need to achieve for my business, but where in the world do I begin? We already talked about shiny object syndrome, and there's 101 different places for you to go to execute on that and get an appointment a day. Kat, we're just going to bring it down to a few things. Okay. The GPS, first of all, let's talk about what it is. It stands for, it's an acronym. Like with everything in Keller Williams, we have a lot of acronyms. GPS stands for goal, priorities, and strategies. They are the three different elements of the GPS tool. The G for goal is all about a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound goal. So here's a really good rule of thumb. When you're thinking about your business goal, take it through each of those 5 filters. Is it specific enough for me to know exactly what I need to do in order to say that I succeeded? Is it measurable so that I have something I could check on? Just by saying I'm going to be a great real estate agent over the next 12 months. Is that measurable? What does it mean to be a great real estate agent? Would be something you'd want to answer. Is it attainable given your level of experience, your knowledge, your skills? Is it realistic? Some of us, we want to bite off a little bit more than we could chew. I will never set you up for failure by telling you whatever you want, go and get it. Okay? Because once we build the plan for it, we can build a plan for whatever goal you want, but it's going to be up to you to decide if you want it and if it's realistic for where you're at in life, right? And is it time bound? Which in many cases, that's already a given because we talk about this business planning tool in the form of a 12-month tool. You guys with me? Okay. The P stands for priorities. So this will be your 3 big areas for you to focus on in your business, otherwise known as your 20% of your activities. There's a lot of fluff and crap that you could think about in your business that you have to do on a day-to-day basis. We're not saying you're not going to do that. We're saying that from a business planning perspective, you're really going to zone in on 3 things that your business needs to execute on a high level. Typically, it's going to be things like your database, some form of lead generation, or some form of leverage to focus on, whether it's people that you're bringing on or a system to focus on. Okay? But that's what the P is all about. And then strategies is what you're going to use to flesh out each of the priorities. These are specific activities or action items that you need to do in order to accomplish on your priorities. So let me show you what the tool looks like, and this might bring it to light a little bit more. You'll see at the very top that it's going to have 1 line. That's where your business goal goes. So because of you using the economic model, you're likely going to put right there the number of appointments that you need to hold on a weekly or monthly basis. You might also input the amount of money that you need to generate from a gross commission income standpoint or net income standpoint. You might also put the number of closings. The biggest thing there is the one that we have the most control over, which is the number of appointments. Okay. Then you're going to fill out your 3 priorities. Don't worry about the strategies yet. What are the 3 most important things for you to focus on, such that by focusing on it for your business, you will hit your goal? 99.9% of the businesses that I coach and consult should have one thing as one of their priorities at all times. Anybody take a guess of what it is? Yell it. There's people on Zoom here that need to hear you.
Database.
Say it louder.
Database.
Yeah, that's right. Marilee said database. Typically, 9.9 times out of 10, that is going to be one of your priorities for your business. The question is going to be, what do you need to do with your database this year? For some people, it's putting one together. For others, it's specific things that you need to tweak on it. Now, priorities 2 and 3, that's going to be up to you. In many cases, it's going to be a lead generation lever. Maybe you've always wanted to farm, do open houses, cold call specific types of people, host seminars, host events, do social media, do direct mail. It's up to you to answer what are going to be the next 2 priorities. Many cases, it will be lead generation. Now, for some of you, you figured out your lead generation game, and it's not about, do I have enough leads to hit my business goal? It's that I have so many leads, but I don't have enough people to service those leads. That's where we need to shift our priority to a form of leverage, whether it's a tool or a person to help us. Okay? So your priorities are going to be the 3 big areas. When it comes to your strategies, this is what you'll then do to flesh out what you need to do almost in a chronological order in order to execute at a really high level that priority. So let me give you guys an example. Our goal is going to be to host, and you guys can't really see it on here, so just bear with me, is to hold 7 listing and buyer appointments a month in the next 12 months. Okay, that's our goal. That's our North Star. We need to be making sure that as we think about our priorities and we flesh out our strategies, the question that we have to keep filtering is, by focusing on this, will I hit that? Okay, priorities. As an example, I'm not telling you this is what your business plan needs to show. You're going to think of 3 priorities. For this example, we thought database as number 1, open houses as number 2, and then building out our team as number 3. This is what I need to focus on, given where my business is at, in order to execute on my plan. So pause. The question to the group here. If I focus on my database, open houses, and building out my team, will I hold my 7 appointments per week over the next 12 months? You should, right? Yes? No? Maybe?
Depends on the strategy.
Great. What just happened there is exactly what needs to happen as you guys are building out your business plan. Don't start fleshing out what you're going to do specifically until you've figured out, am I focusing on the right 3 priorities for my business? This doesn't mean that you're going to do nothing else besides these 3. But nothing will get in the way of these 3 being executed. Okay? Then we start talking strategies. And how we do it is pretty simple. Edgar, when it comes to your database, what's the first thing that you're going to focus on?
Organizing it for me, really.
Organizing it. Okay, what does that mean?
That means going through my database. I think the most one that I've been going through and I haven't answered all the questions was on goals. It'll give you all those questions that your dentist, all that stuff to fill out, see if they are on your database.
Okay.
And then getting on the database.
Okay. So it sounds like you need to focus on qualifying the people for your database?
Yeah.
Okay. Now remember, the strategies need to be really specific actions, right? Input all X number of contacts into my database. Edie, you said not necessarily though, and I don't know what you're referring to. I'm going to pause for a second.
When you said, will this get you to 7 appointments a month or something like that? Yeah, those are the things that will help you get that, but it's not a guarantee either.
Exactly, right? God, I thought I misspoke on something and you were going to correct me.
No, I've done that in my head like 10 times. No, I have not. No, not at all. But I'm interested in, because going back to a couple topics ago, Ralph and I have about 90% buyers. I don't know what the exact number is. I have it on a spreadsheet, but it's about that, and 10% listings. At one point, at our highest, we have 12 listings. Right now, we have 2 active ones. So I would like to meet with you on that if you have some time.
1,000,000% yes. And that's for anybody in this group. Yes, we could talk about how many of you have a balance outside of 60-40? Show of hands.
Outside of?
Yeah.
A what?
Like there's a balance outside of 60-40 or 50-50 when it comes to buyers and listings. Like it's significantly on the other side.
80% buyers, 20% listings.
And you know what? How many of you is that imbalance heavily weighted on buyers? Yeah? Okay. All right. I got a different idea. We're going to address that as a whole because I just realized what's going on. But yes, we'll have one-on-one conversations as well. I think we just need to have some listings classes. Okay. So you're going to ask yourself the question, what's the first thing that I need to do? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing that I need to do? These are to-do items for your priorities. Let me help you with your database really quickly. If you haven't done what I'm about to show you, you probably need to start here. And only when you've checked off each of these things, they're created, they're executed, and they're pumping me business, then we can start readdressing what the strategies need to be for your database. But this is a model that I'm about to show you. Okay, first thing. Do you have an 8x8 already created for all of your newly generated leads and contacts? Yes, an 8x8. A plan where anytime somebody jumps into my database, they are going to be hearing from me or being touched by me 8 times over the next 8 weeks. You got to have one of those plans in place. It burns mind share in the people that you meet. This is the number one reason why most people, when they lead generate, those leads die and disappear like a what? Like a fart in the wind. It's because after that conversation was done, they left that person alone. Second thing is, for the individuals that go in your database and you're likely going to be talking at them and not with them, meaning there's a one-way conversation going on, and we all know those people in our database right now, do you have a 19 to connect plan set up with them? Over the next 12 months, they're going to be touched by you 19 times. Once a month of which is some form of monthly market report. I'll send you a screenshot that dissects a 19 to connect plan. They want one in place for the people that you're talking at. The people that you're talking with, these are the contacts in your database. You have a relationship with them. You're in two-way dialogue. How I like to define the contacts are, when you call, do they say, hey, Keela? Or do they say, who is this again? When they say your name, they're likely a contact. Do you have a 36 to convert plan in place for your database for those individuals? 36 times they hear from you over the next 12 months. Are you following the DTD2 method for following up with your database? Where you're picking 2 letters from the alphabet every week and you're saying, I'm going to call everybody whose last name begins with those 2 letters this week. So that at the end of 13 weeks, you will have spoken with every person in your database, and every year, you're speaking to every person at least 4 times a year. And then last but not least, and for those of you that, in many cases, you could have 8 days, 8 times, not 8 days, 8 weeks, 8 times over 8 weeks for the 8x8. And last but not least, maybe you're hosting some form of client events, some appreciation events. Leverage your brokerage if they do some sort of events, right? But do you have a plan in place to create a party or world that nobody ever wants to leave? In fact, they love it so much that they want to invite other people to this party. This is the one party where it's okay for your friends to invite other friends, not to your mom and dad's house. That was a joke, right? But that's the key here, guys, is if you're not treating your database like this, you got to address this first and foremost before we could talk about anything else. Now, what are some other database strategies? Somebody dropped something. Yeah. Now, you might, so then you're going to do the same sort of flight. So you see here, first thing is we thought about this in chronological order. The first thing is anybody that's newly added to my database 8x8. What do I do with the people I'm not in a relationship with? I'm going to create this. What do I do with people that I am in a relationship with? And so on and so forth. You're going to do the same for your other priorities in your database. For instance, for your open houses, the first question is, okay, how many open houses are you going to host a month? Great. When are you going to have the open house confirmed by? Perfect. That's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3. So what are you going to have done? What's the first thing you're going to have done? You're going to put all the contact information, or you're going to pull all the contact information, maybe from a title rep for all of the neighbors, and you're going to get all of your marketing done. Got it. Then what's the next thing you're going to do? You're going to go door knock the neighbors Wednesdays and Thursdays. Great. What's the next thing you're going to do? You're going to phone call all of the neighbors. You see how we thought about that in chronological order? That's what you want to be doing with the strategies for each of the priorities. Okay?
Then would you be able to share this because it's blurry on the picture?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, this plan was built in 5 minutes. You should not be taking 5 minutes to build this plan. I built in 5 minutes because I've helped people build a bunch of these plans. But you should really be thinking about what is it that you want to do with that priority in order to execute it at a high level. Because let's think about this. Look at the open houses. I'm going to host 8 open houses a month in 2 very specific zip codes on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm going to confirm the open houses by end of day Monday. I'm going to pull all of the contact information for every single neighbor and have all the marketing material done by end of day Tuesday. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I'm going to talk to a minimum 100 people that live in the area via door knocking. I'm going to talk to another 100 the next day through phone calls. If I do all 5 of those strategies, will open houses be done at such a high level where it actually moves me towards holding 7 appointments a week? That answer you have to be having for every single one of your priorities. Okay? What are the questions you guys have about the GPS? Questions?
Strategy 1, drink.
Alcohol, I've never seen that be. Yeah, I mean, I guess that can be. And I will share these plans. Yes, I'll share with everybody here, along with like some specific touch plans and what we've seen work. But yeah, you could add alcohol to one of the strategies. Just, by the way, a couple tips with this. Non-negotiable, you got to have a goal. Non-negotiable, you got to have 3 priorities. Negotiable, you don't need 5 strategies. Up to 5 strategies. But here's the key. Every time you write a strategy, you want to ask yourself, if I do just this, will the priority be done at the highest level possible so that I can make sure I hit my goal? And if you say no to that, keep thinking and keep writing down a strategy. But I've seen many people do fill in the blanks and they start creating crap that just becomes to-do items that there's no attachment to. So don't do that to yourself. Okay, let's talk about some action items. If you guys have taken this class serious, if you guys want to build a business worth owning over the next 12 months, this class will help you get there, but not this class alone. What we're talking about in the to-do items afterwards will help you. So the first thing is you have to define your someday 5-year and 1-year personal goals. Answer those questions. Don't do it alone. Do it with your family. I will show you guys a whiteboard. I did this with my own family, and we are gunning. We are gunning hardcore. We're under contract on our 2nd home. We're really excited. But I tell you that because we are doing that because of the plan we've put in place. Right? These things aren't going to be easy, but it's able to be done if you understand where you're going towards. What's the next thing? Once you figure out your personal goals, now you can define your 1-year financial goals. Your personal goals inform your financial goals. Your financial goals inform your business goals. So using the economic model, you should understand all of these goals. How many home appointments need to hold per week, per month, and in total? What are your conversion rates need to be on your buying and selling side from contracts to close? Or, I'm sorry, appointments to contract? How many actual contracts you need to take, and the contract to close ratio. Okay. Once you figured out your business goals, now you can create a business plan that you will actually follow because you're emotionally tied to it. So there's the 4 steps that you need to take. Consider this like your checklist. All right. What are your takeaways, mahas, questions, feedback, or concerns? that we can help you with today?
My biggest maha is building a career worth having and doing the right things to achieve that.
Say it louder for us.
Building a career worth having and doing the activities that are required to do that.
Yeah, building a career worth having it and then doing the activities, right? The key though is you started with understanding what it means to build a career worth having. Don't make the same mistake of just jumping into, I know I need to do cold calling because my coach or my team leader keeps hounding me about it. I know I need to be on scripts practice because I want to fit in. Do it because you have a real belief in it. It's actually going to contribute to the perfect life you're going after. All right. What else?
My maha would be getting that emotional attachment to that goal. Because like you said, if it's not emotionally attached, there's much crap you go down. Basically, it's and
Exactly.
how many people actually finish their
Yeah, exactly. It's a to-do list, not a must-to-do list, right? You want to create a must-to-do list, be emotionally attached to not just what's on there, but why it needs to get done. Same reason why when my wife tells me, can you do the dishes? Can you do the dishes? And I say, yes, honey. And guess what? I didn't do the dishes. Now what happens if she said, do the dishes or I'm divorcing you? Well, I best believe I'm getting my butt up and doing those dishes. It's extreme. But the key is, do you understand why you're doing what you're doing, right? I'll take the baby. I'll take the dishes.
Can I follow up on
Yes,
what you
please.
said? Now,
Yeah.
are we referring to the kind of emotion that we're referring to the fear of faith that we were discussing before? What's going to motivate us to do that?
Yeah. Based on like what he had said, is it fear, is it faith, or a little of both? Maybe a little of both.
Bingo, right? Is it fear or faith or both? Whatever it is, you gotta have some emotional attachment to these goals. It might be nice to get those new pair of heels or the red bottoms, I don't know, whatever you guys wear, but do you feel a fear of not getting that or a faith of what it's gonna do for your life upon doing it? Right?
I fear that I'm gonna eat cat food when I'm older.
You fear you're gonna eat cat food when you get older
Like people who are on Social Security can't afford food, so they will buy cat food.
because it gives you the nutrients.
Hot dogs, like that's when you're just solely relying on Social Security.
And by the way, you've said that, I think some people might say that in jest. I feel like you genuinely like fear that,
Yeah.
I
That's a
fear.
and
Non-organic, like no, I'm just kidding.
yeah, doesn't align with my gluten-free. Right, I gotcha.
Is it a vegan diet though?
Right.
Is it vegan?
I don't know. I feel like we're going way off base. Is that Roselle, sell your bags for cat food?
Never.
Just kidding. She didn't say cat food. Yeah, so we got to really feel that fear of faith, guys. I'm telling you. We've created goals that we gotten excited about. It's like, man, that'd be cool. Right? But take it 2 or 3 steps further on what it'll do for your life. Anything else? So here's what I'm committing to you is I'm going to send you the GPS tool digitally. That way you could use this to map out things and then have an official one, as well as sending you some specific touch plans. So that way you could at least assess, does my database have these? And if not, these probably need to be some strategies under the priority of database. Okay. I'll also send you the example GPS. That way, hopefully that at the very least gets the creative juices flowing. With that being said, what you will need to do for part 2 is bring a GPS with you. A GPS that has up to 15 strategies baked in. Here's what's going to happen. Anybody want to take a guess as to what's going to happen when you get done creating your GPS? After you've done everything, all 4 of those things, and now you have a GPS in front of you. How are you going to feel? Psyched? Overwhelmed? Nervous? How are you going to feel, Marilee?
I feel much better now that I have it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I've got something to go by to do.
So you have a to-do list.
Yeah,
How are you going to feel?
Probably overwhelming.
Overwhelmed. How about you?
Excited, just knowing like direction.
You'll have direction, but you will feel chaos. I promise you this. You will feel like, oh my God, I have 15 things I have to do. You will feel confused. You will feel like we didn't do anything for shiny object syndrome. In fact, we diagnosed you with it. We gave it to you. You'll feel stressed. Because yes, there's clarity, and that clarity is going to help you. It's going to remove about 102,000 things. But there's still up to 15 things for you to focus on. That's okay. It will be okay. You, most importantly, will be okay. Because what we're going to do next week is we're going to take these 15 strategies and we're going to break it down into bite-sized chunks. We're going to remove all the chaos and all the stress out of it and make it so that you're managing your business the way a millionaire real estate agent does, where there is purpose and there's priority. Okay? Guys, that's your class for part 1. I hope you will join me for part 2. Thank you for joining us for this first 1-hour session, and I look forward to helping you remove the chaos and bring some order. All right? Have a great rest of your day. Make sure you do the dog. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, no, quick, I know 10 days of paying 8x8, 36 touch. What's the 19 to connect?
19 to connect. So when you have leads in your database, it used to be the 12 direct.
Okay.
So if you had a 12 direct, according to Millionaire Real Estate Agent, that was once a month you were talking with people in your database. So now we've added some additional things. It's a once a month touch plus 2 events with an invitation to it, and then a promotional item being sent to those individuals.
How does that differ from the 36 touch?
Well, it's a lot more. So at 36 touch, you're in front of them. You're like making sure that they don't forget who you are. So that's going to be 2 times or every 2 weeks, they're going to hear from you. So like a bi-weekly market report. In addition to, you double down on the events and you double down on the promotional items. So I'll send you the whole map for each of those so that way you guys know what it is. Cool. All right. Yeah. Awesome, guys. Get that personal work done, and then let's have some fun with the rest. And thank you, Zoomers, for joining us. We appreciate you.